The Hard Count is presented by BetMGM. As y'all know by now, we've teamed up with BetMGM this college football season. We'll be using their lines to make all our picks, and we'll have special offers for all of you each week. Now, when you join BetMGM, you get access to a variety of parlay selection features like same-game parlays, live betting options, and more. If you haven't signed up yet for BetMGM, use bonus code HARDCOUNT, and you'll get up to $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how that works. 1, download the BetMGM app and sign up using bonus code HARDCOUNT. 2, deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. Step 3, you'll receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure you use bonus code HARDCOUNT when you sign up. Let's make this college football season 1 for the books. Let's make it legendary. Let's get to the show. Welcome into the Hard Count, as always, presented by BetMGM. The college football show that we're going to react tonight to these college football playoff rankings, but we're not going to overreact. See, that's the key thing here. You want to react, but not react too much to the point where you get beside yourself when you understand it's the first college football playoff rankings. This committee, yeah, they're doing their job. They're doing their very best to get the 12 best teams, or however they're phrasing it, into this college football playoff structure. But I think they're going to go very resume heavy tonight. Another discussion for another time. We're not going to get too carried away with what the committee says tonight. However, we do have a number of college football games to break down on our Tuesday show, as we always do every single week on this edition of the Hard Count. We're on our Tuesday edition, rather. We're giving you game previews. Got a nice little 5-pack dialed up for you today, as well as some Auburn hotboard talk from our very own Pete Nakos. He gave out his hotboard over at on3.com. Again, would recommend getting a membership there so you have that in real time. We will react to a number of names that he has on his hotboard, as well as a little bit of Heisman discussion. It's November. Feels like it's now fair to have a discussion about that little bronze trophy. All that and more, so make sure you are subscribed right here to the On3 YouTube channel. Appreciate y'all being a part of this. We're heading into the final month of the regular season, so guess what? We're going to enjoy the heck out of it. Appreciate y'all making this show what it is. Let's start here with the BetMGM game of the week. Texas A&M going to Columbia, Missouri. Como, if you will. 6-point spread, favoring the Aggies. 3:30 Eastern on ABC. Texas A&M, there's a certain libation company that has the phrase, "Stay thirsty, my friends." Texas A&M, the thing I'd say to you is stay edgy, my friends, because there's been a lot of talk around A&M, and they're the front runner now in the SEC, and they haven't lost. And some people, your boy included, are murmuring about the death of battered Aggie syndrome. Is that a real thing? Well, if it's going to be a real thing, then you got to find a way to roll in this game where you're favored by a touchdown on the road. Because A&M fans, when I went to your board not all that long ago, I asked y'all what would take care of battered Aggie syndrome in your mind. And you said winning road games in the SEC, winning a big road game in the SEC. Now, I think you got that big road win when you went and cleared out that Baton Rouge there pretty quickly and had them pay a $50 million buyout to get their head coach fired. Neither here nor there. But now you go on the road, and it's not a night game. It's not college game day. You don't have this one circled, maybe like you did in the preseason around the LSU game. Can you still handle business and still keep that edge about yourself? Because I think what's made A&M to this point in the year has been that moxie, that swagger, that, we don't care if you believe in us or not. We're going to go here and kick the door in and handle business. Do you have that same attitude when you're favored by 6 points and everyone's talking about you potentially being a top 3 team in America? Remains to be seen. Now, for Missouri, this spot can be your ally if you let it. Because everyone's talking about A&M, like I just mentioned. Nobody's really talking about Missouri like they were a couple of weeks ago. Your boy, during the midway point in the season, said, I think Missouri is a college football playoff team. Now, I can't say I still feel that way here going forward, but isn't that kind of right where you want to be if you're Missouri? Under the radar a little bit. Bo Prabula doesn't look like he's going to play in this game, so a true freshman quarterback rolling here for you with Matt Zollers. Are you able to maximize this spot that's teed up for you? And the way you maximize it is by being locked in and letting all the Eli Drinkwitz, other coaching jobs talk just wash right over. It'll be there when it's there. Can you handle this spot the way that you're supposed to handle it if you're Missouri? Okay? Excited to watch this one. Excited to break it all down. If you're A&M, I think you got to go around this Missouri defensive line, dude. I really do. This D-line is one of the best in America. This front seven is one of the best in America. Big Zion Young, Damon Wilson wreaking havoc on opposing offensive lines. They are allowing less than 100 yards rushing a game. They're one of the top teams in America when it comes to yards per carry allowed a game. The theme of the week for A&M is make you miss in space, especially Mario Craver and KC Concepcion. I want you missing everything this week. I want you missing calls. I want you missing class. I want you watching Miss America reruns. Whatever you got to do to get in that mindset of we're going to make these dudes miss in space, that is what you got to do in this spot. Because I don't think it'll be a thing where you can just turn around, hand the ball to Ruben Owens, go north and south. Now, maybe you get that a little bit later in the game, but you get that later in the game by loosening up that box a little bit, getting Missouri running sideline to sideline. If you just go in there with the we're going to go ahead and battering ram this whole thing and just beat our head against the wall till it breaks, it might eventually break, but at what cost? And what's the score in that game? And are you able to maximize your best players, being Craver and Concepcion, in my opinion, your best playmakers? That has to be something you do in this game, in my humble opinion. So ball in the perimeter, Concepcion make you miss in space, get north and south. After you catch the ball in the perimeter, and then things are going to be rolling your way if you're A&M. Now, for Missouri, you got to support your true freshman quarterback here. Matt Zollers, I like the cut of this guy's jib. We had him out here in Nashville for the Elite Series a year ago, and just has a little bit of a swag to him, a little bit of aura to him. This dude's a twitched-up athlete now. Charles Power describes him as a bouncy athlete with a live arm. The way that I'm translating that, this dude's a liability to run the football if you're A&M. So Eli Drinkwitz said in a teleconference with SEC coaches this week, they're not going to shy away from running the quarterback. Yeah, Bo Perillo's not playing this game more than likely. That sucks. He was a threat running the football. Matt Zollers, I think, is in that same vein when it comes to his ability to beat you with his legs. So you'd like to get him comfortable with running the football a little bit, but if it's me now, I'm turning around, I'm handing the ball to Ahmad Hardy. And that's kind of what Missouri does, right? They're primarily run the football kind of team. More specifically, they're a wide zone kind of team. They'll attack that edge defender, make him commit, tight end or tackle, make him decide which way he wants to go, upfield or downfield, and Ahmad Hardy cuts off of that. Now, in this spot, the matchup to watch is Ahmad Hardy versus Torian York, linebacker for A&M, who has been phenomenal all year long for the Aggies. If I'm A&M, I am doing my very best to set that edge, meaning I want Ahmad Hardy to have the read all day long. Hey, put your foot in the ground, cut upfield, go north and south. Why? Because that means Torian York gets to meet you in the hole. So that battle, when that kind of thing happens, where Ahmad Hardy has to go north and south, and it's him and Torian York in space, that's going to be a lot of fun. That's going to be a Sunday kind of matchup for us here, but we get it on Saturdays, which is awesome. How that whole matchup unfolds throughout the course of 4 quarters will do a lot for determining what Missouri's doing on 2nd and 3rd down. If Ahmad Hardy's shaking and baking and falling forward, and we're living in 2nd and 6, 3rd and 3, guess what? You ask a lot less of your true freshman quarterback, Matt Zollers, in this game against that A&M front 7. I don't like the idea of Matt Zollers dropping back. It's 3rd and 11, Cassius Howell off the edge for A&M. Like, that's a bad, bad way to live if you're Missouri. Another thing you can do to support your true freshman quarterback, Kirby Moore, style up some easy stuff for him. I know that's easier said than done. It's much easier to say that sitting at the desk and actually, putting that into practice against that A&M defense who got 7 sacks against LSU and just made their life a living nightmare in Baton Rouge. But I want the ball out of his hands quick. I want us on the perimeter. I want us throwing the tunnel screens. I want us quick game. I don't want us doing a whole lot of sit back, 1 Mississippi, 2. You don't have 3 Mississippis against this A&M defense. So ball out quick. Give him the easy stuff. Get his confidence going. Get him in rhythm. If you can do that now, you give yourself, again, position to be in 3rd and manageable, 2nd and manageable, and that has to be the way that you live in this football game. If the game is on Matt Zollers, you did something wrong, Missouri. You weren't able to get the stuff going on 1st and 2nd that you had to get going, like I just said, intermediate passing game, running game, all those things. Now, if you're Missouri, go win some matchups here. Brett Norfleet is a tight end for Missouri that I think has been quietly one of their unsung heroes of this offense. Shoulder injury a couple weeks ago. Day-to-day is the latest report on him. I'm curious to see what the injury report says on him on Wednesday for the SEC folks, but he's a big 6'7" body, and I think if you can have a safety blanket like that on 3rd and 5, 3rd and 4, and have him coming across the field or just get him isolated, I like that a lot for my true freshman quarterback to have that big target on 3rd and the stick. So just something to keep an eye on, something to keep a pulse on. Where is he at over the course of this week, and what's his availability for this game? Because if he can't go, this whole thing is a moot point in itself. But at the time of us recording this, don't have that intel, so keep a pulse on that. It's all about possessing the football if you're Missouri. That's who they are. That's what they've been this entire year. And especially in this game with Marcel Reed on the other side of this thing, I don't want him having extra bullets. Okay, I want him watching this game. I don't want him playing. I want him watching this game. So how you do that now is extending drives. Everything we just said a second ago. Can you take time off the clock? Can you look up at the end of this thing and say, man, A&M only had like 7 possessions over the course of this thing. Man, Missouri, they had the ball for 38 minutes. If it's a definitive time of possession victory for Missouri on the box score, I think it'll be a close game, maybe a Missouri victory on the scoreboard. So something to unpack there. Now for A&M, is there something you can manufacture on the ground? Because I just told you, I think it's probably a thing where you got to put the ball in the perimeter, get it to Concepcion and Craver, and make it happen in the space. Remember that whole conversation? But are you able to get something going with Marcel Reed in the option game? Are you able to get something going in the jet sweep game? Again, I don't think you're just going straight up and going north and south with these boys when it comes to the trenches and all that for A&M. But I do think what Colin Klein's done to this point in the year with the eye candy pre-snap, with messing with the eyes of different second and third level of defenses and having them out of position, if you can manufacture something in the ground game, could be quarterback run game, it might be night-night for Missouri, because the advantage I love for A&M is their ability to push the football downfield against this Missouri secondary. All right, like if I'm A&M, that is the matchup I love. So if you can get something going early and force them to play that box a little bit more aggressively, there's going to be some bombs downfield for Marcel Reed to hit on. And to this point in the year, that has been what's really allowed A&M to blow some of these games open over the course of the season. So at the end of the day here, there's a lot to like with Missouri. I told you the spot I think is really interesting. I picked Missouri to beat Alabama a couple of weeks ago because of all the things I just told you that I think Missouri has to do in this game. Time of possession, run the football. Ahmad Hardy is, I think, the massive hinge point in this spot. If he's able to get going on the ground and support their true freshman quarterback, this thing gets very interesting. But here's the deal. I am big on picking a team to win that I see the most ways for them to win the game. Like for A&M, if Marcel Reed goes off, probably win the football game. But if he doesn't have a great day at the office, I think you could talk me into the run game finding a way to get rolling. I think the defense could make some plays. I think you could win a rock fight in this spot with the way that the front seven's played for A&M. So I think there's more ways for A&M to win. The spot, I keep saying this, it makes me nervous. I will take A&M to win. I will take Missouri to cover. I think it is a little bit uncomfortably close for the folks in maroon that make the travel out to Columbia for this one. But I'll take the Aggies to win 27-23 to stay unbeaten, keep their college football playoff hopes even more intact than they were before, and A&M keeps that show on the road in the BetMGM Game of the Week and takes that show, I guess, off the road this week with a win against Missouri. Now, College Game Day, taking the show out to Lubbock, Texas, of all places. I'm so glad they're doing this for the record. The fact that we get this matchup in that conference in the Big 12 spotlit, that's going to be so awesome. BYU at Texas Tech, 10.5-point favorites are the Red Raiders. Noon kick, all right, 11 a.m. local for those of y'all that are watching this one out there in Texas. Both these teams want national respect. And you hear that a lot across the Big 12 Conference. But I think these two teams, with their college football playoff aspirations and the case they're trying to make for themselves as a college football playoff team to the committee, this is a spot where a lot of eyeballs are going to be on this game, with game day being in town. You want respect? Go take it. If you want to be considered a college football playoff caliber team, this is your stage. Nobody's stopping you. BYU, you want to be that team that's considered one of the best in the best in the Big 12, one of the best in college football? You want to legitimize yourself? Now's your chance. For Texas Tech, same deal. Home field, your quarterback is back healthy and he's rolling based on that Kansas State game. This is a game where you go and take respect for my money. Just want to give this disclaimer before we get into the breakdown. We could see this game twice. So whatever happens in this game, file it away and understand we might see this game a second time in Jerry World, especially if Texas Tech wins this game. Just think about that for a little bit. Now, I don't think BYU has played a front seven quite like Texas Tech. So, rock, meet hard place. BYU runs the ball 57% of the time. Texas Tech, they are top 3 in America when it comes to yards per carry allowed, giving up less than 2.5 a clip. That is ridiculous. Can Bear Bachmeier, big 47 playing quarterback for BYU, can he factor into the run game here? He's got 400 yards rushing on the year. He's listed at 6'2", 220. I'm just saying this. I'm watching my guy out there on the broadcast. Looks like closer to 230, maybe that rib protector adding a little bit extra love. Good for my guy. Can we utilize him in the run game? Because I don't think, similar to our last breakdown of A&M Missouri, in this game for BYU, I don't think you just say, all right, boys, 34 wham, inside zone, bread and butter. Let's just make them say uncle. Maybe you get to that place in the fourth quarter if you're BYU and the game goes how you'd like it to go, where you can keep that Texas Tech defense out there for a while. But, I mean, I've seen David Bailey play football. I've seen that front seven look too impressive at different points in this year. The Utah game comes to mind. I don't think that's your strategy. So I think you got to be a little bit, not exotic, but a little bit creative with how you run the football if you're BYU. Now, I will say this. Outside of the run game, BYU has answers. They want to run to throw, but when they do throw, that's some dogs now. Parker Kingston, one of the best-kept secrets, I think, in college football at the receiver position. He's explosive. He's shifty. He just seems to always be in the right spot when it comes to finding the soft spots in the zones, and they do a great job, does BYU, scheming dudes open. So you have good personnel, but as well as good scheme, where you see defenses a lot of the times have their eyes in the backfield because BYU runs the football so well, and they create explosives off of that. So Parker Kingston and Chase Roberts have been awesome for BYU all year long. They will have to have a role in this game, have to have some explosion in this game to be able to match what Texas Tech brings on the offensive side of the football. Because for Texas Tech, I'm watching that BYU secondary, and they're good versus the competition they've played to this point is BYU. Like, you could look at the numbers. They're pretty serviceable when it comes to how they stack up next to the rest of the country. Top half, top third across college football. But Texas Tech is going to bring a very different level of horsepower that BYU has seen to this point. And the reason why I'm a little bit leery of BYU's secondary, when they played a quarterback that could push it downfield, and Rocco Becht, he went for 3 bills on him. If you had trouble with Iowa State pushing the ball downfield, I don't love the formula for how it's going to match up with the way that Texas Tech pushes the ball downfield. They're top 30 in America when it comes to yards per pass. It is Caleb Douglas. It's Coy Aiken. Get the ball to the running back as well. Like, they are explosive and they are aggressive with how they push it downfield. So just keep a pulse on that. I don't feel amazing about BYU in this spot. Now, I say that, but I think we have to also acknowledge the reality that BYU has been very opportunistic to this point in the year. They're in the territory of taking the ball away twice a game. Big reason why. They let their secondary play, man. Like, they let them take chances on the ball when it's in the air. They are not so much bend, don't break. They're like, no, if you can go make a play on the ball, go do it. Leave them in man coverage a fair amount. They let their DBs and that third level of that defense go play quite a bit, does BYU. So as much as I'm concerned about the ability to match up with this Texas Tech personnel on the perimeter, I also can't get out of my mind that Baron Morton game against Utah, where he didn't even play the full game but threw 2 picks. If BYU is successful in their risk-it-for-the-biscuit approach on the back end, this thing gets very interesting, because then, just what I said, Texas Tech defense stays out there a little bit longer. And that front seven, I love them when they're fresh. I don't love them quite as much when they've been out there for 50 plays. So just keep a pulse on that, something to think about, and that would be a game that obviously favors BYU. If they get more possessions, and BYU has at this point in the year, get a chance to lean on you, and then maybe Texas Tech shows some cracks in the armor on the defensive side of the football. Now, BYU, just to go along with my concerns here defensively for them, they haven't been awesome against the run, and that's kind of where I land on this game, to give you a take here. They gave up 200 yards against Utah, and Utah's a good running the football team. Texas Tech, they don't run it quite as heavily as Utah does. They're a little bit more balanced. But I don't think that Texas Tech is going to be an easier task when it comes to stopping the run. You don't have the quarterback run game to worry about quite as much like you did with Dampier. But in this spot, I think that if BYU isn't successful against the pass, the way that I think they're going to have trouble, and they have to chase points, and they also can't stop the run nearly as well as I think they need to in this game. BYU's been living very close to the edge here the last couple of weeks, y'all. Very close to the edge. And I've been the guy that's picked against BYU and been wrong many a time. Had egg on my face, crow in my mouth, shame in my heart, just the way it's gone. And so with it being in Lubbock, and with I think just ultimately Texas Tech having superior personnel and those numbers that make me nervous about the BYU defense, the BYU offense just needs more for it to go right for them to win this game. So for all those reasons, I'm taking what I believe to be the more talented team at home, with game day there, with momentum behind them, a 10.5-point spread at their back. I'll take Texas Tech to win. Y'all, I'll take them to cover. Maybe it's backdoorish, but I'll take Texas Tech 34-21, getting it done in Lubbock. And the Red Raiders feeling pretty good about their Big 12 title appearance aspirations as well as their playoff aspirations. So we see that the first time. Do we see it a second time? Just think about it, especially when conference title game time rolls around. Could be a game that we see once again in Jerry World, but we'll take Texas Tech to win that one in Lubbock. The CBS jingle, with it being behind a Big Ten game, is still taking some time for me to get used to, but we're going to have it in this game. Oregon at Iowa, 3:30 Eastern, CBS, Kinnick Stadium. Both teams now off a bye. Oregon, I know we keep talking about y'all as a playoff team, and I told y'all before the year I think you're going to be a playoff team. This is one of those games where it's not going to be a cakewalk. This game's not going to be a cakewalk, and then the rest of your schedule, should you lose it, is not a cakewalk. Okay, so let's just say that Oregon drops this one. Again, we're going to do a whole preview and prediction for this game. I'm not giving you my pick just yet, but let's just say, should Oregon drop this game and be a 2-loss team, you got to play Minnesota, you got to play USC, you got to go to Washington. None of those games are easy dubs for the Ducks. So I'd like to keep my safety net of having another loss in my back pocket available to me should I need to use it. Now, you don't want to ever use a loss, quote unquote, but you hear what I'm saying. This is not like low stakes for Oregon going to Kinnick Stadium and playing a scrappy Iowa team. Now, I say Iowa, and you have already a preconceived notion of what you're getting in a Hawkeye football team. Neck rolls, power eye, low scoring, unders, all that. And that's fair. They've earned that reputation. But this Iowa team is a little bit different. Right? They're scoring some points this year. Now, it looks the same with how they're scoring points. They're running the football 58% of the time. Mark Gronowski has got a 4-touchdown to 4-interception ratio through the air, so that is very Iowa-ish of him. But they're averaging 31 a game is Iowa. Okay, we'll take that. Also, if you're wondering how legit Iowa is, go look at that Indiana game. They've given Indiana the best game they've had all year, played them to a 5-point game, held Indiana to 20. So Iowa, I understand there's kind of this preconceived reputation of them, and I get where that comes from. But this Iowa team is, again, not an easy out by any stretch of the imagination. Now, I think what's on Oregon's side here is how multiple they can be in the passing game. It's DeCorian Moore, it's Kenyon Sadiq, it's Benson. Like, they've got so many dudes to throw the football to. The question I have is Oregon able to set the table the way they've been able to set the table to this point in the year? Because Oregon's one of the best teams in America when it comes to yards per carry. 6 yards a carry. Number 2 in all of college football. Not number 2 in the Big Ten. Not number 2 for Power 4. Like number 2 in all of college football. They do a phenomenal job setting themselves up to then take shots downfield. In this game, I don't know if that's going to be available to you when it comes to them being able to run the football the way they have. Because Iowa, surprise, surprise, they're a gritty outfit in that front seven. The sky is blue and Chick-fil-A is closed on Sundays. What else is new? They're really good up front. One of the best teams against the run in all of college football. So I think the approach you see from Oregon in this game, put the ball in the perimeter, quick game, east and west. I think it'll be a lot of get Iowa rocking and rolling early to then go vertical, to then get the running game going a little bit. Because I don't think it's a thing where you can just, similar to what we've said about these other games, I don't think it's just a set up shop, run our base stuff, and that'll be good enough. I think you got to be a little bit creative with how you try and attack Iowa in this spot because their personnel in that front seven is just too good. Now, Iowa, the game, I know they're going to be calling it a college football game all week long. We'll talk about it like a college football game. The game for you is keep away. The game is control the clock, possess the ball. Dante Moore, you're one of the best quarterbacks, I think, in all of college football, at the very least the Big Ten. We don't want you touching the rock a lot here, brother. We want you on the sideline. We want you holding the clipboard. We want you breaking down stuff on the iPad, getting ready to go out there. The way you do that is just how I was done it all year long. Run the ball, line it up. 58% of the time they have run the football this year. You got to be able to convert third and manageable. You got to get to third and manageable, but you got to be able to convert third and manageable. Oregon, they are good against the run, top 25 in college football. I'm very curious to see where Oregon's at in the third quarter of this game. And as I'm breaking this game down, I'm thinking about the blueprint that's out there to beat Oregon. I think about Indiana and the way they just went inside zone after just kept running the football against this Oregon defense. At home, mind you, was Oregon. This time you got to go on the road. So I don't question if Oregon has the personnel to stop Iowa up front. I'm a little bit interested to see where they're at from a stamina perspective. It's November. Everyone's beat up. Your depth you had in the preseason isn't necessarily the same kind of depth you have right now. Where is Oregon at in the second half of this game when it comes to stopping the Iowa run? In the same vein, where is Iowa on the scoreboard? Are they able to keep running the football? Are they able to stay within their box of game plan and not have to extend themselves too much with pushing the ball downfield and chase points? So the good news, again, for Iowa, there is a blueprint out there for beating Oregon. I told you, it's run the football at a high level, and then also get after Dante Moore. Can you do that? Can you stop the run the way that you've stopped the run all year, but then heat him up a little bit? And the way that Indiana did that was they were pretty aggressive with the second level of that defense. Whenever the running back was staying in, I shouldn't say whenever, but pretty frequently, whenever they had what we call a green dog blitz, hey, your back isn't going out for a route, you're clear to go attack the quarterback. Indiana did that consistently, and it harassed Dante Moore. It led to turnovers, and ultimately it led to an Indiana win. Iowa, that's the good news. The bad news is you don't have the personnel that Indiana has. You don't have a Elijah Surratt on the outside there that can just go make plays for you. You don't have a Fernando Mendoza. Not taking anything away from Mark Gronowski, but you don't have that same style of play, through the air at least, available to you. So the margins there are a little bit more thin, and I don't love that for Iowa. So you factor in the home field advantage here for Iowa. I think it's probably your angle if you're picking Iowa to win this game, or if you're picking Iowa to cover in this game. And the thing I worry about a little bit here, if I'm on that side of things, Oregon's been so good at just feeding off of away atmospheres. And like Dan Lanning, we said this before, one of the best communicators, one of the best motivators, one of the best psychology guys in college football as a head coach. I think he'll have something awesome in the team room for him, for this team rather this week, and give them some kind of motivational Pavlov's dogs kind of approach like they had for Wisconsin of, hey, when jump around comes on, you're playing your best ball. Hey, when the wideout comes on, when they got Mo Bamba playing at Penn State, we're playing our best ball. I think it'll be a similar kind of approach that we'll get after the game from Oregon's creative team. We'll find out what that was during the team room this week when it comes to their meeting. But I think that angle for Oregon and that being in their back pocket makes me feel like that home field for Iowa won't factor in quite as much. So I think Oregon just has too many weapons. I think the style of game they're going to be able to play is going to be too much for Iowa to keep up with. If Iowa keeps them in puncher's distance early, phenomenal. That second half will be much more interesting, but I think it's a matter of time before Oregon finds their footing, creates some explosives, and I don't like Iowa to chase. So I think Oregon wins. I think Oregon covers. Final score in Kinnick Stadium, Oregon 27, Iowa 17. That's one that I picked in the preseason, actually, for Oregon to lose. But with Oregon already having a loss, I think the urgency will be there, and I think the Oregon Ducks will get it done on the road. Now, you know who else is going on the road? My LSU Tigers. Going to Tuscaloosa. Alabama, 10.5-point favorite, according to BetMGM. 7:30 Eastern, ABC. This is a game that I thought would have very different stakes in the preseason. LSU, you got the fired head coach juice at your back now. Brian Kelly, no longer your head coach. Frank Wilson, running back coach and interim head coach in Baton Rouge. We keep seeing this across college football. We saw it last week in Jacksonville and Florida, Georgia. When your head coach gets fired, as much as it just sucks for your football program long-term and you got to go find a new guy and it's just a bummer that you had to fire the guy, whatever, it does in some ways burst that pressure bubble that maybe would have existed previously. Like now you should be in some ways, if you're LSU, thinking you got house money. And oh, by the way, you're going on the road. You can go mess up Alabama's college football playoff aspirations, or at the very least kind of make them rethink things when it comes to where they're going to be in that first round of the college football playoff. This would be not a season changer, but at least a mood booster for the folks out in Baton Rouge. You can go out and find a way to beat Alabama on a year where you didn't have your head coach in that game. I can't wait to watch this one. But Frank Wilson, I think, will have the boys dialed in, ready to play. Keep an eye on the pressure bubble being burst and that interim head coach juice here for LSU in this spot in Bryant-Denny. Now for Alabama, I feel like every single week I'm talking about them having a quote-unquote weird spot. Oh, you got to go on the road and play Missouri, noon kick. Didn't matter. Oh, well, hey, you got a mobile quarterback. It's Williams-Brice. It's a South Carolina homecoming, double-digit point spread. Didn't end up mattering in the end. How about now, though, where you're off a bye? LSU's off a bye. They fired their head coach. LSU has been abysmal the last couple of weeks. Are you able to take this spot as seriously as you need to. I know that question is repetitive, it's redundant, but it's kind of the question that we were all asking during SEC Media Days, wasn't it? It's never been about the talent for Alabama. It's been about the focus muscle. We know that focus muscle is strong for Bama. Where's the stamina at for that focus muscle here when you go play? Let's call a spade here. This is essentially a rivalry game between these two teams with what they've played for over the last couple of years. Now, I just mentioned LSU fired head coach. Now, I probably said that 3 or 4 times, way too many times throughout the course of this segment. There is a chance here for Alabama to sweep the leg from the jump, snatch the will, snatch the soul, wind out of the sails, all those things. Because the idea here for LSU is house money. We're playing free. Are you still feeling that way if you're down 14-0 in the first quarter? And Ty Simpson's just taking shots downfield. And Jeremy Bernard's downfield catching touchdowns. And Ryan Williams is doing the cool celebration that he does when he gets in the end zone. Or the kick Batowski, Kato, is that what it is? Pretty fresh, yeah. That's pretty fresh. And that would bum me out from on LSU's sideline. And I thought we maybe had some mojo going into this game. You have a chance to do that early if you're Alabama. So I have to imagine Ryan Grubb doing the Spice Adams deal, where he's just kind of looking at the LSU defense saying, all right now, here we go. Going to catch them lacking. The thing, though, here, LSU's defense on the back end has actually been quietly really talented. Like Mansour Delane should be good to go in this game. He's LSU's best player. DJ Pickett, 5-star true freshman, coming more and more into his own. This will be a big spot for him. So the reason why I mentioned that, Ryan Grubb, I fully believe, will have guys open, but I don't think it's multiple guys every single play. I think it's like, hey, we dialed this up for Jeremy Bernard. Jeremy, go win. Ty, give him a ball. Jeremy, make the catch. That's how good things happen in football, right? But what's been the issue this year for Alabama? Maybe specifically for one player, Ryan Williams. We struggle with the drops a little bit here, brother. 14 drops on the year, not ideal. Or maybe it's 14 drops over his career. 14 drops over his career. Not on the year, but it's felt like that if you're an Alabama fan with what he's put forward this year. So, Ryan Williams, are we able to, when we have these moments against LSU and it's drawn up for us, can we go capitalize on our plays that we have from Ryan Grubb to go win? Because if you can do that, again, it's going to be very difficult, I think, for LSU to keep pace, especially if you've set a quick pace early on the road, fired head coach, all those things. Don't need to address that too much further, but that's kind of the hand you're dealt here if you're LSU. And that's the opportunity you're dealt here if you're Alabama. So we need all hands on deck, Bama, in that receiver room to go get it done. LSU, we got to manufacture something for that front seven to worry about. Notice, I did not say we got to run the football. I think you have a good chance to run the football because your running back coach is now your interim head coach, and your new play caller is a former OC that comes from the offensive line world, and Alex Atkins with what he did at Florida State. I think you'd like to have something in the run game, but just I would settle for anything for that front seven to worry about. That could be the extension of the run game with the perimeter passing game. It could be the tunnel screen game. It could be the quick game. Whatever it is, we can't be a sitting duck back there for Garrett Nussmeier. Because you saw what happened against A&M when you live in that world. When it's drop back, 3 and a hitch, 3 Mississippi, this LSU offensive line, God bless them, they're not good enough to protect Garrett Nussmeier. They're not. And I think very quietly, there is a world where this could be Garrett Nussmeier's best game. Could be. All right? Very, very big emphasis on the could be. The reason why I feel that, head coach, pretty intense character in Brian Kelly, no longer there, so you kind of remove that weight vest from it. Your OC, Joe Sloan, who was previously calling the show, for whatever reason, that wasn't working. He's no longer there. If I'm Garrett Nussmeier, I'm like, it's Home Alone, man. I'm Macaulay Culkin. What does he do in that movie when he finds out he's home alone? He's ordering pizza. He's playing the music loud. He's getting in the Buzz's room. He's doing whatever he wants. Is that the same kind of attitude we see from Garrett Nussmeier in this spot? He's a gunslinger at heart. I call him the Gumbo Gunslinger. Do we see that approach from him in this game? Also should be noted, off a bye week. The last time we saw Garrett Nussmeier off a bye week, it was against South Carolina. He had his best game to date. And then he looked okay against Vanderbilt. It was a loss, but it wasn't like Garrett Nussmeier was playing terrible. He had a decent day at the office. Good first half against A&M. The whole thing kind of fell apart from there. But the thing I'm trying to make sure we're all aligned on is post-bye week Garrett Nussmeier is, you would think, as healthy of a version of Garrett Nussmeier as you're going to get. Now, I'm not saying the dude's a spitting image of health. I'm not saying he's just like put him out there in an anatomy class and break down everything that's right about Garrett Nussmeier physically. But I do think that overall, like, he is good enough now to make the throws he has to make for LSU to have the potential to be successful in this spot. Now, something to watch here, Trey Green, I'm not going to do the whole 6'7" thing. I'm not going to do it, so quit asking, to quote Nick Saban. But he's a big dude, big body. He is 6'7". And Alabama didn't struggle with Brett Norfleet, the big old body tight end from Missouri, but he had a few plays. I think that's the safety blanket here for Garrett Nussmeier. He's been a go-to guy this year, quite frankly. He's the one matchup where I say if we can just expose that match, if we can just milk that thing all the way through, that might be how we stick around in this game. Heck, if we're LSU, maybe that's how we win this game. I mean, it's LSU Bama. Weird things happen all the time, right? It's 2025 in the world of college football. Weird things happen all the time. Also, Alabama and Kalen DeBoer, they haven't been all that awesome against double-digit point spreads since DeBoer's been there, this year included. Ask Florida State. Ask South Carolina. That was a 2-touchdown spread. The thing, though, with Alabama here, as much as there is a world where you can talk yourself into LSU and the fired head coach juice of it all and the opportunity and the mojo, we've seen black Air Force One energy from Alabama too many times this year. Unless Kalen DeBoer gets robbed this week, he's probably wearing the black hoodie. When he's wearing the black hoodie, good things happen. I think Alabama is going to, like I just said, have some explosives, score some points, put LSU in a hole, but Alabama with Daniel Hill, big 240-pound running back for them, he will then be the shovel to the back of the cranium for Alabama in this spot to then bury LSU. Like if Alabama just had one speed and it was just, we're going to go speedboat, score points, and we don't really have another way to downshift, Alabama has proven they have a way to downshift. I don't know if Caden Proderick gets any touches in this game. More power to him if that's what happens. But I think that the ability to get downhill and run the football with Daniel Hill, no pun intended there, is enough for them to get it done. So we've seen the finishing traits from Alabama at different points this year. Vanderbilt, Missouri, heck, the Georgia game even you could go back and point to. South Carolina, I think we see that show up in this spot. As frisky as I think LSU will be in this game, I think Alabama wins. I think Alabama covers. Final score in Tuscaloosa, 34-22, tied roll. This sucks for us as LSU folks. I won't call myself an LSU fan because that doesn't feel like a title I can necessarily tote for myself. But I picked a preseason to win the whole darn thing, LSU. We've had a lot of good times on the Ponderosa together, the LSU On3 message board. This is tough, but this is what's going to happen. We are truthful. We are honest. That's how we do our job here. So as much as it'd be fun for LSU to pull this thing out, if you're a Tiger fan, Bama's a machine right now. They're going to win this football game. They're going to cover. And Alabama is going to have more than a puncher's chance at an SEC championship and everything beyond that as well. So tied roll. You don't give I won't finish that whole thing, but you don't care about anything else but the Tide, and the Tide get it done in Tuscaloosa against LSU. Now, here's one game that just is giving me the heebie-jeebies. And if you've tracked what both these teams have done to this point in the year, it's giving you that same vibe too. Georgia going to Starkville. Not Starkville, Starkville. Noon Eastern, ESPN. Mississippi State is hosting Georgia as a 7.5-point dog at the crib. So you got the road dogs meeting a home dog. Interesting. Georgia, can you keep from being comfy with what you've done the last couple of weeks? And we keep asking that same question with Georgia because they get down in the first half or they're down in the second half or whatever. Like, they seem to not care whenever they get down. And I think that's dangerous territory to be treading because when you play poorly enough to lose but still win, Nick Saban said it many times on College Game Day, that's where it's hard to get your team back right and focused to then go play an opponent that, quite frankly, could beat you in Mississippi State. In Mississippi State, they've been awesome this year, treading in the deep water. They've played many a close game, actually 5 of them to be specific. Did the win over Arkansas, I know it's Arkansas, best 2-win team in the country, but did that win over Arkansas in Fayetteville do enough for you from a muscle memory point of things to help you out in this spot? Because I think it'll be a close game. That 7.5-point spread, again, makes me very, very nervous. But we'll break it down right now. Make sure you're subscribed if you haven't already. College football, nothing but college football year-round on this show, The Hard Count, on the On3 YouTube channel. So make sure you're locked in for that. But we're breaking game down all year long. Make sure you're a part of this. All right, we got the college football playoff right around the corner. We'll break that down as well. So if you're a Georgia fan or a Mississippi State fan, make sure you are subscribed. So for the last couple of games for Georgia, whenever we give them a preview, you can pretty much copy and paste what we say about them at the onset, every single preview. Georgia will be down at some point in this game. They have made a living off of starting slow. What's the score And at what point in the game does Georgia turn it on? Because as much as you can bank on Georgia starting slow, you can also count on Georgia roaring back. Down 9 against Ole Miss. Doesn't matter in the second half. Down 3, I believe it was in the fourth quarter against Florida. Doesn't matter. Find a way to traipse their way out of that thing and go win a football game. Now, Mississippi State, in a very convenient fashion, has a lot of the things on their offense that the Georgia defense struggles with. Like, Georgia offensively has been just bad against the pass. Let's call a spade here. They have not been good through the air when it comes to the defensive side of things. Mississippi State, on the other hand, they've been awesome. Anthony Evans, Brennan Thompson, 2 of the most explosive playmakers in the SEC. They play for Mississippi State, so that's why you don't know that much about them. Brennan Thompson might be one of the fastest college football players, period, like legitimately track fast. And Blake Shapen throws a pretty deep ball. Will make a grown man cry. If Georgia can't figure it out in this game, and if they don't get a quicker start, not a fast start, but a quicker start in this spot, you could be staring down the barrel of like 14 zip. I know that sounds crazy looking at these 2 logos, but I'm just telling you, Starkville, big win for Mississippi State. Georgia kind of sleptwalk at different points throughout their schedule. If they sleepwalk in this game, they have the explosives, does Mississippi State, to make things increasingly more uncomfortable. I'll make a prediction right now. If Georgia is down by 2 scores again in the second half, if they're in the same spot they were against Ole Miss, where they were down 9, they will not come back and win. Mississippi State has too much ability to push the football downfield, and they can attack Georgia exactly where Georgia's not great at being attacked. And I don't love that whole recipe when it comes to how this whole game could flow. Now, I say all that, but we got to make sure we say this too. Gunner Stockton, what has he been all year long? Whatever Georgia needs, Gunner Stockton answers. I'm telling you right now, it's going to take that dressed-up polo for Georgia offensively to get it done. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, I compared Gunner Stockton to the polo of college football. You can dress him up. You got to go score 40 against Tennessee. No problem. Gunner's got you. Going to dress it down a little bit, wear some shorts, a little bit hot outside, a little bit more casual. Gunner, we need 200 yards, something on the ground. Don't turn it over. I got you. It's going to be the former in this spot. It's going to be, Gunner, we need you to go for like 270, 300, 3 touchdowns, maybe 1 on the ground. You got to answer that call to action. Now, the good news is, 1, Gunner Stockton always does. Death taxes and Gunner Stockton doing what you need. And then 2, Mississippi State is bad on defense. How's that for analysis? Mississippi State is not good on the defensive side of things. Also, they've had trouble stopping the quarterback run game. Ask Taylor Green about that. So the Mississippi State defense is ripe for the picking. So I expect points in this one. Keep an eye on that total because I think it's going to be a very, very fascinating game. Now, the thing that I land with here when it comes to my prediction is 2 things. 1, I would be very stupid to pick against the toughest team to kill in college football, and that is Georgia. Like, if it was anybody else besides Georgia and Kirby Smart, with the way they've played this year, walking into this game with Mississippi State and their offense and it being at home and all those things, I'd probably pick against Georgia. However, what I just said, it's Georgia. The other part of this, the second thing here, is Georgia is not going to be stopped from the ground. Mississippi State is giving up 174 yards a game. So even if things aren't going perfect for Georgia, even if the defense is having trouble stopping Brennan Thompson and Blake Shapen, Gunner Stockton can do a whole lot of this. Nate Frazier. Chauncey Bowens. Tick, 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 tick. Time off the clock. Shorten the game. That would be a world that I think Georgia could live in. I think it's a world they will live in. Again, this game gives me the heebie-jeebies. I will not bet this even if you paid me to bet on it. I think Georgia is going to, again, slow it down, be tough to kill. I think Georgia wins. I think Mississippi State covers at home. So final score, 34-29. We'll take the Georgia Bulldogs to win, but the Mississippi State Bulldogs to cover. Stay away, heebie-jeebie game. But Georgia, once again, finds a way to win a close game, and the Dogs just keep on rolling. So there you have it. But that one is going – that might be the game of the day. You get it at noon. Just food for thought. But we'll keep a pulse on that. Okay, so it's November, and with it being November, the air gets crisper. Your boy broke out the Christmas tree, just so we're all aligned here. This is a spot where you can now actually start to focus on the Heisman race because it's a November award. This thing is won really during conference title weekend / rivalry weekend for my money. I know it hasn't been that way the last couple of years with Travis Hunter and Jaden Daniels, but for the most part, that's how this award is won. So I want us to get together here and just lock in who I believe are going to be some finalists. I got 3 of them for you. I know there's usually 4, but I think these 3 dudes will all be in New York City. I'll be shocked if they're not. So, disclaimer here. Who's primed to go win this award, meaning who has played well enough to be in position to be talked about for this award, and then who's got the stages to go be on that stage in New York City. Because as much as we talk about the Heisman Trophy being a stats award and best player on best team, you win the Heisman, I think, in moments, in snapshots. So who has the best potential to do that? Texas A&M quarterback Marcel Reed will be a Heisman Trophy finalist. Go ahead and book that one. He's got the stages. Texas game, end of the year, in Austin, mind you. And then I think, barring something wildly unforeseen, A&M will be playing in the SEC championship game. Okay, now he's done the work to be in this spot. 23 total touchdowns, 17 through the air, 6 on the ground. He's been awesome. The thing that I think helps Marcel Reed is he's got a little bit of that storyline juice behind him. Like, he's been awesome, but you got to have a little bit extra behind you in addition to being awesome to win the Heisman Trophy and to be a finalist. The Texas A&M storyline, I think, is something that in the month of November is going to get amplified. Because at that point, when we see A&M start to reel off these wins and they've surpassed the 8-4 mark, obviously they're at 8 wins right now. When they get past that, people will start to talk about them more. A&M, over the course of the last couple of years, has always been underachieving. Texas 8-4, like I just told you. Texas A&M's got all this talent, but they never do anything with it. For Marcel Reed to be the poster guy for A&M getting back to where they expect to be in the college football world relative to how much they put into their football program, relative to all the talent they have on their roster, I think that's going to get something that gets the people talking. And I think that will be something that ultimately boosts Marcel Reed in his ultimate Heisman campaign. Maybe as importantly, if not more importantly, of all the Heisman Trophy candidates at this point in the year, I think that there's something to be said for being the most watchable Heisman Trophy candidate. That's Marcel Reed. Like, God bless these Heisman Trophy voters. I don't know how many of them are truly watching college football from September to October, but I tell you what, they're going to sit down in front of the TV, figure out they got to turn their Heisman Trophy vote here pretty soon, turn on A&M, watch Marcel Reed, and say, wow, that dude's different. That dude's making plays in space. That dude's making throws off platform. That dude's pushing the ball downfield. Like, Marcel Reed is the most exciting, I think arguably the most exciting college football player right now, period. Definitely the most exciting quarterback right now. And all those things going with the A&M storyline juice and the momentum and the watch value with him, I think he'll be memorable. And so when you go make your Heisman Trophy vote, for those that vote, you'll think about, what have I seen in the month of November? And you'll see Marcel Reed shaking and baking against Texas. You'll see him making plays in Atlanta. So if A&M wins the SEC, I think he's probably a lock to win the Heisman Trophy. But I think A&M, even being in that position, and I expect them to be in that game, I don't think there is any talking down on Marcel Reed and his campaign he's put together at that point, and he's going to be a Heisman Trophy finalist. Currently, if you're looking at some of the odds in Vegas, BetMGM has Marcel Reed as the 4th best odds to win the Heisman at plus 750. So those odds will go up and get better if they win this week and keep on winning. So jump on those now if you want to, but I'm telling you, the voter psychology, the storyline juice behind A&M, all those things pair together for me to say, yeah, Marcel Reed, he's going to be in New York City when that whole thing is given out. Now, you know who has the best odds to win the Heisman Trophy? None other than a young Julian Sayin, quarterback at Ohio State, currently plus 175 to win the Heisman Trophy. He's got a couple of stages behind him as well. The Michigan game at the end of the year will be a big spot for him, especially because of what Ohio State hasn't done in that game the last couple of years. And then also the Big Ten title game is something I expect Ohio State to play in. I think they'll be facing Indiana. His numbers have been great right now. Top 3 in college football when it comes to passing touchdowns this season. 23 of those bad boys, only 3 interceptions. He has been the epitome of efficient, number 1 quarterback rating in all of college football. The direction I'm going here is a lot of these voters, again, I don't know how much college football they're really watching throughout the course of the year, but they definitely look at the box scores, definitely look at numbers, and they'll look at Julian Sayin's numbers and say, oh, that's pretty impressive. Oh, yeah, if we're box score scouting here, Julian Sayin checks that box for us with flying colors. His numbers are stupid right now. They're going to get more stupid. Not stupider. They're going to get more stupid. At Purdue, UCLA, Rutgers, I mean, it's just going to be a home run derby for Julian Sayin, bro. You watch the Penn State game. If you watch college football, again, no knock on the Heisman Trophy voters. Don't know how much they're doing to that. But you watch the Penn State game. He's just launching missiles downfield. They're truly opening up the offense to be the Julian Sayin version of this Ohio State offense. Not the Ryan Day, Brian Hartline version. Like, they've passed Julian Sayin the keys and said, all right, kid, go cook. And he has done exactly that, preparing a 5-course meal, it feels like, the last couple of weeks. He will continue to do that against this lesser competition going into the Michigan game. The reason why I like Julian Sayin, in addition to all those things, to be a Heisman Trophy finalist, more than anyone else I'm talking about in the hunt for this Heisman Trophy, he is the most dependent variable in this entire conversation for Ohio State. Like, you're not worried about, does he have enough behind him on the offense to go do what he has to do? Does he have a defense next to him to go and win the games he has to win? Julian Sayin's got the best defense in college football playing for him. He's got the best receiver room in college football next to him. That's my only concern with Julian Sayin, is does he end up splitting votes with a Jeremiah Smith? Heck, Carnell Tate's been the epitome of impressive this year. Does he sneak into that Heisman Trophy conversation a little bit? That's my one concern for him when it comes to the Heisman Trophy campaign. But for the most part, it's going to be about Julian Sayin handling business. If he's going the right place with the football, if he's making the throws he can make downfield, Julian Sayin's going to be in New York City for the Heisman Trophy because of what I just said. Numbers will be stupid. If you beat Michigan, the snapshot in voters' minds of, wow, he was the first one in 5 tries to get him over the hump. C.J. Stroud couldn't do that. Will Howard couldn't do that. Kyle McCord couldn't do that. Julian Sayin getting it done, I think, would be a massive boost for him in the Heisman Trophy visuals. But I think that ultimately he'll be a guy that's definitely up there for the Heisman Trophy. And, again, if he doesn't split any votes with his teammates, he's going to be very much so in a good spot to bring that one home. Cato, Julian Sayin's a guy that we have talked about now a lot more intensely as of late with the way they've put more on his plate. What are your thoughts on Julian Sayin in this Heisman Trophy race right now, brother?
I think he's heating up at the right time. I mean, his last 2 weeks are insane. The ball's barely touched the ground. He's thrown for over 300 yards. He's thrown 4 touchdowns. The one thing I wanted to highlight, JD, that I think that also separates him from some of his counterparts here. Do you know how many times he's been sacked this year?
Interesting. No, I don't.
3.
3 times.
The kid has room and time to do what he's been doing. So I think that makes the runway especially potentially very favorable for him as well, because obviously a statement win against Michigan would be huge for his Heisman case. He would probably be a big part of that game. I think you feel a little bit better about him having a major role in that game, especially, too, if he has time to throw the ball. So I think that's something interesting, too, because we always talk about how the defense is supporting them. I mean, they're giving up like 6 points a game right now. We know what the receiving core is. Some question marks going into this season that I feel like have been kind of suppressed a little bit with the running game. But this kid's not getting touched. And he seems like the last kind of quarterback you want to be untouched back there if you're a defense, because he is so accurate and has shown a lot of poise in the pocket that's been afforded him by his offensive line. And I think that's also something to watch here.
Cato, you know who he reminds me of? There's 2 guys that come to mind watching him play ball, and they're kind of lofty comps, but I was sitting down yesterday. We do a lot of contact naps with our baby, so I got time to think about like takes and different things like we're talking about right now. Julian Sayin, I see 2 people. I see Russell Wilson with the way that he moves in the pocket. He made a couple of plays against Penn State where I was like, okay, Jules, look at the little giddy up right there. I mean, he's not elusive by any stretch of the imagination, but he's got a little bit of movement to him. I say elusive. He's not going to run for 100 yards, but he can make something shake on the ground. And then this isn't really a comp for him physically because this dude's bigger and probably has a little bit more arm strength. But, dude, I see some Joe Burrow there.
That's what I was thinking.
I see some Joe Burrow there, dude.
I think the Burrowishness of it, I think that started in the spring for me because I'm like, all right, let's see what this Sayin kid's about. And I see the way he's moving in the pocket in the spring game. 2 hands on the ball, very Burrow-like. And I'm like, okay, well, this is the spring game. They can't touch him. Let's see how he does it in the season. And I think the last couple months he's really started to have some of that. And the accuracy, I think, is especially what makes it feel Burrowish because he obviously had great receivers out wide. So does Julian. And I think when both of those guys started to take their game to another level and step up is when the accuracy and the confidence was paired with that. Because, I mean, when you're throwing a Jeremiah Smith in double coverage and you have the confidence because it's Jeremiah Smith, but you're also placing a ball in a place to where you're kind of handing it to him, that's when you're reaching another level of quarterbacking to where, okay, you're raising the floor of this passing game in a way that can't be quantified because you are so accurate and your weapons are so good that the defense all they can do is put their hands up and say, what do we do? Hard to beat a perfect pass. He's throwing a lot of those, and hard to beat Carnell Tate and Julian or Jeremiah Smith one-on-one. So that's a nasty recipe there, man.
I don't want to go too down the LSU 2019 rabbit hole, but you're like, okay, well, Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson, Burrow also had guys like that. I'm not saying Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith are that duo, but in terms of what you can do with pushing the ball downfield, respect you demand from defenses, just what you said, it is the surgical nature. It's the ball placement. I think some of it's the confidence in the pocket, too. He's never second-guessing himself for a second. Ball is always on time. Joe Burrow's bigger than him. But, Cato, I see a lot of that with Julian Sayin, man. I really do.
Yeah, man, it's going to get scary for the teams on that November stretch of the schedule. Not calling you out, Michigan. You know I still have belief in Michigan's playoffs hopes over here. But that defense and that quarterback, man, it's getting scary. So we'll see what Julian does, man. I'm glad he's finally getting some of that hype. I think the last 2 weeks have definitely helped him out with this Heisman campaign.
Yeah, man, like King Arthur pulling Excalibur out of the stone. Is Julian Sayin the King Arthur that pulls a win out of the stone that is Michigan? Remains to be seen. Cato, great stuff as always. One more Heisman Trophy finalist, maybe not lock, but pretty confident bet I would make at this point in time, is Ty Simpson of Alabama. Now, if you have just been loosely keeping up with college football to this point in the year, you know this dude has been the reason why Alabama has been winning at the level they have been winning at. Not taking anything away from the defense, not taking anything away from Jeremy Bernard or the game plan Ryan Grubb has dialed up, but the epicenter of that discussion is a one Ty Simpson. And so, speaking to the stages that he has available to him to make his Heisman Trophy push, Oklahoma, they're on a bye week this week. Y'all, they could be top 10 in college football when they play them. Should the deck shuffle accordingly within the top 10 to get Oklahoma into that top 10 when they play them? I'm just saying, for Ty Simpson's Heisman Trophy campaign, go play an Oklahoma defense that's top 10 in college football. That team is. I think that would do a lot for him. Auburn always sort of has some juice to it with it being rivalry weekend. Now, no Hugh Freeze on the sideline with a head coachless Auburn maybe doesn't have the same kind of shine on it, but it's at Jordan-Hare. Could be something to keep an eye on. And then Alabama is still eyeing the SEC championship game as well as a number of other teams in the conference. So that is also a stage opportunity for a one Ty Simpson to have his Heisman moments. But for Alabama, they're going to keep pushing the football downfield. Like if you're trying to put together the Heisman highlight reel for Ty Simpson, Ryan Grubb's going to cut it loose. It's going to be Jeremy Bernard down the seam. It's going to be Ryan Williams downfield. It's going to be all those things. Like they will go as Ty Simpson goes, especially in the month of November here. So I think he's been consistently impressive. And I think the other part of this too for Ty Simpson, with that consistency he's shown really since the Florida State game, I think there is something to be said for currying some favor with these voters over the course of several years. Like you win, or years, over several months, you win this award in November, but you kind of set the table a little bit in September. You kind of get in the minds of these voters in October. And with the 4 ranked wins that Bama's had against the SEC in that 4-week stretch, Ty Simpson being the poster guy for that, I think only bolsters his campaign in that way. Also, let's just be real. Being the quarterback at Alabama is kind of like being the lead singer of Coldplay. Like, people know Alabama, people know the band, but you're the front man for all of it. And so by nature of Alabama being in this conversation, I think they'll be top 4 in the college football playoff rankings when they drop tonight. By nature of them being Alabama and that logo and the way they're trending and all those things, Ty Simpson being the front man for that is only going to bolster his Heisman Trophy persona in his campaign. So there's a lot there for him. There's a lot there for Bama. And I think if he can have a big game against LSU this weekend to get November off on the right foot for him and the Tide, that'll do a lot and go a long way for him when it comes to that Heisman Trophy candidacy. Currently, at BetMGM, the third best odds to bring home the trophy. Now, just a couple guys to touch on here. Fernando Mendoza has the second best odds to win the trophy right now. He has the most touchdowns in college football through the air, so keep an eye on that. If I were going to make a long shot bet, Trinidad Chambliss, 7th best odds to win the trophy. Ole Miss is rolling. He's the poster guy for that. Just keep an eye on that. Trinidad Chambliss and his Heisman aspirations should be just something to be monitoring here over the course of this season. But Heisman Trophy time. It's November. Make sure you're locked in. Now, I told you, Alabama fans, you have a big one this weekend at home against LSU. If you want to be at that game, game time is the best way to get that done. you, much like me, have probably experienced a world where you're sitting there on a Friday night and you're like, man, I think that game tomorrow would be awesome to go to. I wonder what tickets are going for. I don't know where to look. Where can I find the best tickets? Where can I look to make sure I buy tickets the safe way? Game Time has got you covered. Safe, fast, effective, affordable, easy way to buy tickets. Know the view from your seat before you buy, so you're not getting taken for a ride and saying, man, these tickets are so cheap. I wonder why. Because you're sitting behind the Jumbotron, brother. Don't do that to yourself. Use Game Time to get that done. And if you hear nothing else, hear this. I'm going to save us all some money now when it comes to buying tickets. You want to be at that game in Bryant-Denny Stadium on Saturday? Here's the best way to do that. Create an account on the Game Time app. Use code HARDCOUNT for $20 off your first purchase. That's HARDCOUNT. And when you do that, get yourself, again, $20 off your first purchase. Save yourself some money only on your first purchase using Game Time. So to recap it here, download the Game Time app. Redeem code HARDCOUNT at checkout, HARDCOUNT, $20 off your first purchase. As always, terms apply. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. Swipe, tap, ticket. It's Game Time for you there. All right, so to wrap up this show, I want to talk a little Auburn coaching vacancy. We already did our reaction to Hugh Freeze being fired. Already talked about a couple of names that we would throw into the mix there to be the next head coach out there on the Plains. But our very own Pete Nakos has his full hot board out right now at on3.com. So, y'all, if you don't have a membership at on3.com, you're missing out. There's intel up to the minute, man. I'm telling you, you will not be wasting any money by buying a membership there because you'll be dialed into all the things that you know and love and care about when it comes to your football team. But you take that knowledge a little bit deeper with great intel from a very own Pete Nakos. So, again, make sure you have membership there. The whole full hot board is yours to have and to hold on there. But I want to break down some names on Pete's hot board here in a matter of moments. Before we get to that, though, I want to talk about the mold that I think Auburn needs for the next head coach. I know there's a lot of comparison for them with the Florida job and the LSU job, and it makes sense. They're in your conference. They're also big-time logos, big-time jobs. I think that Auburn, though, actually, what they need, in my mind, is a lot more in the same vein of what Penn State needs to hire. Juice, energy, personality of we're going to go kick the door down, proven winner would be nice, obviously. But I think when we come to talking about these jobs, we get so focused on resume, and I think that's important and should be one of the first things you consider. I'm looking at personality for Auburn because you had a great roster the last couple of seasons at Auburn, especially this year. Could argue about last year, but especially this year, you had enough to go win these football games, and you haven't done that. I'm not here to tell you it's a Hugh Freeze personality problem, but the personality of that football team was not we're going to go take a game in the fourth quarter. They didn't have a lot of that dog in them, did Auburn. So I want to hire a head coach that has that dog in them. And we'll bring on Caden Smith to unpack this together. Cato, a lot of names, man, but if Auburn's looking to hire a dog, look no further than John Summerall, right? I mean, he's on Pete's hot board as well. Proven winner, 38-10 over the last 4 years, one at Troy, one at Tulane. Culture guy, like a guy that is going to be a head coach in your conference, whether it's for you or against you, he might as well be for you because I think the Auburn job will be a great fit for him, and he is exactly what I need from a personality perspective when I'm talking about the next guy at Auburn. Juice, energy, all those things, activator. John Summerall would be my number one pick for this job. He's on Pete's hot board. I know you're a John Summerall guy. Your thoughts on this, Cato?
I love it, JD, and I agree with what you're saying as far as what Auburn needs right now. And you're not willing to blame Hugh Freeze for the culture there, but I am. Like when you're losing in week 2 to Cal last year, when you're losing to Arkansas last year to start that, have what I see 4 straight losses last season. This year not going well. The cherry on top being Kentucky. They need someone to just kick them in the butt really and change things up because the talent, like you mentioned, is not the problem. And I think John Summerall's coming off of a tough Thursday night loss to UTSA, which Jeff Traylor is also one of the better coaches, if not one of the best coaches at the Group of 5 level as well. But John Summerall, man, he's going to be in the SEC next year. And I think that the LSUs and the Floridas of the world will try to make big, flashy hires. And I think Auburn getting a guy like this might not be the flashiest hire, but I think you look at what he does as soon as he shows up to every single program he's been to, and it's immediately been results, and it's doing it through the toughness, through inspiring your team, getting those wins when the talent is the same when you're a less talented team. That's what Auburn has been struggling to do, closing out games. John Summerall has done that. He's won championships at the Sun Belt level. Like, he will be very comfortable in a lot of situations. I feel like Auburn has been uncomfortable the last couple years, and that's when you lose to teams that are less talented than you or games you're not supposed to lose. So this is a guy who doesn't do that, and I think flipping that culture on its head and getting someone that is the opposite of Hugh Freeze in a lot of different ways, I think would be huge for them.
Okay, let's go from a John to a James.
Oh.
Okay, so there is James Franklin on Pete Nakos' Auburn head coaching hot board. There's a lot of good and some weird to unpack here. Bad if you want to talk about the top 10 side of things. We'll get to that in a second when it comes to his record against AP top 10 opponents. All the dude did at Penn State was win 10 games every year. And at a certain point in time, that got sour, that got stale. And obviously, with the way the train came off the tracks this year, Penn State made a move and made a pretty hefty buyout to get him out of town. But when you talk about Auburn, if they're winning 9-10 games a year, like I understand at a certain point that would get stale if they had the same kind of reality they lived in at Penn State where we can't beat that top 10 team and we're having trouble getting over the hump. That would, of course, get old. But if I'm Auburn, I'm saying, no, we got all the resources in the world for you, James Franklin. If you're a winner, and you're going to bring that winning to us here on the Plains, like we will take that in a heartbeat. So that's the good side of this, and that's the side that I get. The personality fit, though, to me does feel weird. What I said at the top of this thing, Cato, I think Penn State and what they would like in a personality is the same as what I would look for if I was an Auburn, a part of the Auburn hiring committee, rather, when it came to the next head coach on the Plains. I want someone a little bit extra fire, a little kick the door down to him, a guy who has continued to be ascending throughout the course of his career and gotten better and better. James Franklin's been great, but to me, the personality, the 4-21 against top 10 teams, personality of the football team would be a little bit weird to me. So it's a good hire in a lot of ways, but it would feel more weird than exciting if you were to land James Franklin, if you're Auburn.
I think that's a great description, more weird than exciting. It's definitely a strange fit. I don't think any of us can really close our eyes and forecast how that'll really go between him and the fan base and the donors and all that stuff. But again, it's about what kind of problem do you want to solve? And is James Franklin the kind of coach where he can just show up at Auburn and pick up where he left off at Penn State and be ripping off 10-win seasons? If you can guarantee that, I feel like every Auburn fan would be a fan of that if they're appearing in the playoff and doing all that things. It really depends about the standard, because I think James Franklin having the issue of not being able to beat top teams. Up until recently, he was winning every game he should, and that's something that Auburn very much needs. So I think if he does that, he'll be just fine on the Plains, but if not, that's when we can see things get sour pretty quickly. So it's an interesting one. I think when you look at this head coaching cycle, there's not going to be many people with a win-loss record and a resume that's up there with a James Franklin. Brian Kelly is in that case too, and it just goes to speak about the resumes of the coaches that have been let go this year. But I think it would still be something to be excited about. I think James Franklin's resume speaks for itself, like I mentioned, and I think that is one direction to go in. But I think that just balancing out between some of these offensive masterminds we have, some of these master motivators we have, and then coaches like James Franklin who do have an impressive body of work, but you question some of those other areas. It's a tough place to be, and I'd love the Auburn fans in the comments to maybe let us know what kind of archetype coach they think they would be best for them, and if James Franklin kind of fits that mold.
It's a great thought in general of if Auburn's going to win the games that they should win. In the context of this season, what games are different? Probably Missouri. Yeah. If you're going to go ahead and say the Georgia game is going to be that score at halftime, maybe you talk yourself into that being a win. Kentucky's definitely a win if you're talking yourself into games that you should have won based on talent level. A lot there for Auburn. But James Franklin, winning the games you're supposed to win, I think that would go a long way for the folks out there in the Plains. A lot of names here, Cato. We got Clark Lee, which I think would be one that makes sense. I don't know if you're getting away from his alma mater, but honestly, I think you and I agree on this. If you're Clark Lee, now might not be the worst time to sell the Vanderbilt stock with Diego Pavia. Not anti-Vandy on the show, just kind of how I feel about it. One name that jumped out to me on this hot board, though, Cato, Jimbo Fisher, making the hot board for Pete Nakos, baby. One, that'd be awesome for us in the college football media space. Two, he's got a national championship. Like, if you're playing devil's advocate and you're anti-Jimbo Fisher, you say, well, he's got a natty. How many coaches currently in college football can say that? Ryan Day, Kirby Smart, Dabo Swinney. think that's it.
I think that's it.
I think that's it. Like, you add Jimbo Fisher to the mix, you say right away, we got a head coach won a national championship before here. Jimbo to the Plains, he'd have to adapt, obviously, right? He'd have to maybe change his way of thinking. He'd have to hire an offensive coordinator. I think the first thing you're saying if you're an Auburn fan with how things went at A&M. Jimbo Fisher to Auburn, if nothing else, would be interesting and fun.
Yeah, that's all it would be, I think. Interesting and fun. I mean, Jimbo, you're the $70 million man. I think if you have the biggest buyout of all time, you shouldn't come back to coaching. I think that's like your reward. It's like, congratulations, you broke this mark. Like, now you can just retire and chill in the sunset. When I wrote for the news desk, Jimbo Fisher was my least favorite coach to transcribe when they were talking because he speaks so fast at his press conferences and every speaking engagement. But that aside, I just think it'd be splashy. It'd be a cool name to bring in there. But I mean, I think we saw what his ceiling, I guess you could say, at the SEC level at Texas A&M with so many resources and probably even more resources than Auburn has right now, if we're being honest. And I think we've already seen kind of what the max Jimbo Fisher level of success can look at relative to this era and in the SEC. So I can't say this one gets me excited if I'm an Auburn fan. But from our perspective, it'd be fun and exciting for sure.
Yeah.
But I think Jimbo should just chill and enjoy that buyout.
Just jumping back into the SEC in itself would be a little bit like, oh, okay, good for Jimbo. Like, usually you see guys get fired, big buyout, go do TV like Jimbo Fisher's doing right now, and then you go take a UNLV job like Dan Mullen. Then you go take a lower level job, work your way back up, get your sea legs. Jimbo Fisher going from A&M to the ACC network to Auburn. What a resume, dude. What a stretch for a Jimbo Fisher after that buyout. So I'm with you. That would be a little bit puzzling to me. But if you want to play devil's advocate and say, well, he's got a natty, it's like, yeah, you're not wrong there. Cato, any other names? There's a lot of names on this hot board. I don't want to give the whole thing away, but any names that maybe are on the hot board, aren't on the hot board? Who else do you just want in the discussion for the Auburn job with it being very, very freshly available as we're doing this show?
Yeah, so for me, first of all, Mac Brown has a national championship, so should we just throw his name in some of these? It's just funny how we hear like the Saban and the Urban Meyer, like there's going to be teams that make them say no, and like all of a sudden we're getting the Jimbo Fisher camp. Just why not? If you're not coaching right now, if you had a level of success, why not have your name thrown in all these rumors? So it'll be interesting to see if any of that comes to light for any of these guys who are not coaching right now, who've stepped away from the game. If anyone wants to dip their toe back in there, we know Ed Orgeron's pretty excited for it.
That'd be awesome.
So for me, you talked about what Auburn needs, and I like the archetype of a John Summerall, of a Brent Key, that archetype of coach that is just players coach, super intense, run through a brick wall, shift the culture, toughness, winning games. I like that for Auburn. I think it would be a great kind of just detox from their last couple of years. It'd be a great kind of coach archetype to start things over from scratch and try to reestablish your culture. Mm-hmm. But if I'm Auburn's AD and I'm looking at our situation right now, Hugh Freeze did not make good on his promise of being a elite offensive mind that was going to build this team in a way to where offense would be why they're successful. I think the defense is really good still. I think DJ Durkin is one of the best defensive coordinators in the country. And you've seen that through their games, that the defense is not really where you're pointing when you're pointing at these losses. If I'm Auburn's AD, I'm trying to keep DJ Durkin there, keep that side of the ball as intact as possible with the turnover, with the portal. And if I can't get one of these hard-nosed, tough culture coaches, I'm targeting Will Stein. I'm trying to get the best offensive mind I can get. I'm targeting Brian Hartline. These guys aren't on Heat's hot board, but these are the kind of guys I'm going for, because to me, if you can bring in a great offensive play caller and you can retain the talent of an Eric Singleton, of a Cam Coleman, if you can get the right quarterback in there or a kind of coach or coordinator that can get the most out of some quarterbacks who have been disappointed, who have been talented, but haven't quite lived up to the hype or what Hugh Freeze could have gotten out of them, I think all of a sudden Auburn's kind of competing right now and a little bit more immediate than versus a full long-term big-time rebuild. So for me, it's a two-way street. That's the two-way street I'd go down. And I think right now, given what the defense has done, I would lean towards trying to get an excellent offensive mind, an excellent play caller. So what if it's their first year as a head coach? We mentioned it before. There are plenty of guys who were first-year head coaches who are now the Kirby Smarts of the world, who are now the Dan Lannings of the world. So I would try to get a really, really good coordinator and keep my defense intact, I think. And if not, then we start from scratch with a one John Sumrall or someone in that vein.
The words out of my mouth, Cato. The very words out of my mouth. I would probably cut the G5 coaching search to 2 names. I'm taking John Sumrall, like we already mentioned. I'm taking Alex Golish, toughness, winner. I mean, they were 8-37 the 4 years before he got there at USF, and now they're a potential college football playoff contender. But if I'm not getting either of those guys, if I'm not hiring a sitting head coach at the Power 4 level, Will Stein is going to be a head coach at some point in time, and all the ingredients are there on the Plains to score a ton of points. All you need is a quarterback. That's not knocking Ashton Daniels or Jackson Arnold, but Will Stein, what he's done at the quarterback position, Bo Nix, Dylan Gabriel, Dante Moore right now, who could very well be a Heisman finalist in his own right should he turn it on at the end of the year. Like, the dude knows quarterback play. The dude knows offense. DJ Durkin, handle the defensive side. We're good over there. Bring in Will Stein, who will be a head coach at some point in time. It might as well be for you, Auburn. So I would love Will Stein at Auburn. I think that is a home run and a half. If you're going to hire a coordinator, might not be the worst thing to look at the guy who's just churned out Heisman Trophy finalist quarterbacks over the course of the last couple of years. I would love Will Stein, Kate. That's a great call.
Yeah, and I think they would just give them the opportunity to retain their talent. Like, that was the big thing with Hugh Freeze. It's like, okay, well, Hugh brought in a Deuce Knight. He brought in a Cam Coleman. Like, can you keep those guys once your coach gets fired? If you're any of those skill players who are probably a little bit tired of running routes and not getting the ball and running the ball a bunch and your quarterback scrambling, running for his life, a good way to get him to stay is be, hey, don't worry. Like, we're bringing in Will Stein. You know what his offense does. Like, you've seen the success rate of his players going to the New York for the Heisman finalist ceremony, to the NFL draft, receivers alike. Like, I think it'd be a slam dunk. And I think in this cycle, there's so many sitting head coaches who are being looked at and so many big time job opportunities that are open out there. I think any kind of coordinator that we've had that label for, as far as, oh, this guy's gonna be a head coach, like, I feel like their agents this offseason are saying, no, this is the cycle to start those interviews, take them more seriously, and this is your time to be a head coach. I mean, I don't think we're going to see a cycle like this for a while unless this is a new trend where so many big time marquee jobs open up. And I think as a result, you might be able to see a lot of these sitting head coaches get that extension, get that new deal, and all of a sudden the coordinator market, we start looking a little bit strongly there. For me, I go all in right now and try to get a Will Stein as early as possible and try to make it seem like, hey, like there are all these job openings. They want to call Saban, they want to call Urban Meyer, they want to call all these guys who are sitting as head coaches. We believe in you, your offense, what you do. Come bring that to the Plains and let's make something happen. I would try to get him or a Hartline. I think those would be my 2 top guys if I was Auburn.
What happened to hiring coordinators, man?
Yeah.
What happened to that? I know now, I mean, these are big-time jobs that can take a big swing, but you hire a coordinator. History says hiring coordinators has worked out okay for Georgia, worked out okay for Oregon, so on and so forth. But, Cato, great stuff, man. I'm excited to unpack some of these potential hires here, especially on tomorrow's show. We will do a little matchmaking, if you will, for Auburn, for Florida, LSU. Yep, we'll do it. We'll talk Florida State as well. I'm not happy about it. We'll do it. A lot of good stuff from Cato. A lot of good stuff from the entire On3 team here. So, again, make sure you have a membership. And if you want the full hot board from that man, Pete Nakos, go ahead and get locked in over there. Hey, we appreciate y'all being locked in right here and making this show what it is. If you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe. If you're listening on podcast, do us a favor. Some review action there. Give us a rating. Subscribe to the feed if you haven't already. Just helps us boost the show to more people. But for myself, JD PicKell, for Caden Smith and the ones, the twos, and the microphone, we appreciate y'all. We love y'all. Enjoy the rankings tonight. We'll have a reaction for you in real time. We're going to keep this party rolling. We will see y'all next time.